Hello, welcome to White Birch Tarot and Astrology. I'm going to talk about the astrology for the new full moon. I screwed it up already. Full moon in Leo, which is opposite almost all the personal planets. Well, it is opposite all the personal planets except for the moon in Aquarius. So it's kind of challenging, but it makes sense, I think. So full moons are the end of the cycle for the moon, and it's the culmination, so it has something to tell us. And this one is in Leo, as I said, at 13 degrees. So if you know where you have 13 degrees of Leo in your chart, that would be helpful. And Leo rules the heart, and it rules generosity, our true selves, like our inner child, our creativity. It rules romance. It's great energy. It's very genuine. It's the truth. It's like who we are. This is shaking. My camera is shaking. I don't have a camera. It's an iPad. It's who we are when we get in touch with our true self. And that's why, when people talk about Leo, a lot of times they talk about drama and Leos wanting to be admired and appreciated. And it's true that Leos do want to be appreciated. I have a Leo rising. And if I'm very generous, and if I do something for someone, I don't expect them to give exactly, the same thing back or whatever. I don't expect anything back, but I do like an acknowledgement, even a simple thank you. And I think that's what Leo wants, and yes, sometimes Leo energy can be a little bit too much about themselves, but that generally occurs when they don't have self-worth, because Leo energy is about connecting with who you are at your true core, your heart of hearts. And if you're not really in touch with that, or you haven't had a lot of validation when you were younger or whatever, that can make you seek it kind of a lot. And so sometimes when people come across as very, dramatic, or they act like they want to be the center of attention, I say to myself, they probably don't have a lot of self-worth, or they wouldn't be that way. And I mean, any sign can be egotistical. So this one is in a really, really interesting place, because we have the moon, as I said, at 13 degrees of Leo. Then we have the sun exactly opposite, which is why we have a full moon. And then we have Mercury at 21 degrees of Aquarius opposite, Venus at 19 degrees Aquarius, Mars at 7 degrees of Aquarius. So we have the sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars all opposing the moon. So she's standing out there all by herself in Leo saying, I want to be recognized for who I am at my true core. And the other parts of ourselves are saying, yes, but what about the collective? What about everybody else? What about being logical? What about, doing things for other people? And Leo's like, yeah, I'm generous, but I'm just telling you, this is how I really feel. This is who I really am. It's getting in touch with who you really are at a heart level, and maybe letting go of some of the other nonsense that you've bought into, and people pleasing and things like that. It's like, here I am, take me or leave me. But you're doing this, the moon is doing this with an audience in Aquarius opposite. So it's kind of like standing out there on your own, and it's kind of like me against the collective. But as I always say, when opposite signs are involved, there is a clash, yes, but there's also a connection, because the antidote for anything that a sign is lacking can be found in the sign opposite it. So it's not a bad thing that we have this audience of planets in Aquarius. It's challenging. It doesn't have to be a me against them. It can be how do my natural talents and my creativity, how does my creativity serve everyone else? Not that I'm doing this or being this to serve everyone, but I'm getting in touch with my inner self so that I can find out what I have to contribute. And also, I want some recognition. I want people to see me for who I am and stop thinking I'm somebody else. So if you have any relationships, and who doesn't, where people just don't seem to get you, or they're treating you wrong, or they're acting like they got the wrong idea of you, that's going to be annoying right now, and it's going to come up. You're not going to have the patience, I don't think. Leos are very patient, but you're not going to have the patience right now or the desire to let other people misunderstand you. There's a real desire for authenticity, and I wish I could stop this from shaking, but I'm not in an earthquake. So it's about self-acceptance as well, finding out who we are and then accepting ourselves. And then we find out what we have to offer, because that serves us and the collective at the same time. As I always say, when you find your true desire, I had a quote. Where's my phone? When you find your true desire, that will be the exact thing the world needs. It's no coincidence. It's meant to be. This is a quote from the astrologer Rob Brezhny again. He said, "Our true will is fully available only if we anchor it in love." Yeah. I think that's true. So, and Leo is the sign of regal, so the queen. I pulled the cards for the reading tonight. I don't know if I'll get to it tonight or tomorrow, but the Queen of Wands came out, and I thought, aha, that's perfect for Leo. So let's see, what did I leave out? I think I've talked about everything. It's in a slightly negative aspect with Jupiter in Cancer, which I think will bring up a little bit of over emotionality because Jupiter's retrograde in Cancer. So there's stuff about the past coming up, and you might feel not as hopeful as you normally would with a full moon in Leo, because normally that's really passionate and you want to express yourself and be playful and creative, and that's still true, but that's going to dampen that down just a bit. But it's in a good, the negative aspect it's in with Jupiter is called an inconjunct. It's also known as a quincunx, 150 degrees if you're interested, and Jupiter's at 17 degrees of Cancer retrograde. But it's in a good aspect called a semi-sextile, which is 30 degrees approximately, from the north nodes in Pisces. So whatever you learn about yourself during this full moon period will help you decide where you want to go. It might help you decide who you want to be with, where you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to create, and yeah. And and then 2 days later, actually, Uranus goes direct at 27 degrees Taurus. We'll talk about that later. But I just want to say, I don't know if you're interested or not. I was going to explain the houses just a bit. We'll do some astrology 101 if you're interested. Leo rules the 5th house. And the first 6 houses of the zodiac, Aries through Virgo, are developing your personal self, and then houses 7 through 12 are you out interacting with the rest of the world. So Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and that's where it's just basic identity. Where do I begin, and where do I end and the world begins? Who am I at a very basic level? My identity. That's why it can rule like your temper, boundaries, desires. It's I'm not going to say it's a childish energy, but it's just a beginner energy. it's like, who am I? And I know I've talking about Leo, also just asking, all the fire signs are concerned with self-identity, but Aries is a very basic, it's just like, just ruled by my desires. No, I'm not saying all Aries are ruled by their desires, but connected with, what do I want and who am I? And then when we get to Taurus, it's Earth, and that's about, what do I have? Not only what do I own on a physical level, but what do I have physically that I can work with? And what do I value? And then we get to Gemini, the first air sign, and it's about, we move out just a little bit. It's siblings, the neighborhood, communication. It's you starting to communicate ideas and formulate ideas about things. Not that Aries doesn't think, but I'm just, on a symbolic level, and making choices. Then we get to our first water sign, which is Cancer, and that's about, what do I need emotionally? How do I nurture, what do I need to be nurtured emotionally, and how do I nurture others emotionally? And then it's the family, ancestors, especially the mother, or the mother's line. So that's our first water sign. Then when we get to Leo, we're at the first of the second, the first repeating element. So it's the second of the fire signs. So it's sort of a step up. So that's why it's not only who am I, but like, what do I have to give? And what do I want to, how do I want to play? What do I want to create? Now that I know kind of who I am, and I've been through the first 4 signs, sign number 5, which Leo rules the 5th house, which is romance and creativity and the inner child, as I already said. That's why it's generosity, because now I know what I have to give, or I'm exploring that. I'm exploring what I have to give, and I'm exploring how I receive. And in fact, when I drew the cards, the 6 of Pentacles came up twice, interestingly, because I drew some shadow cards. Anyway, I feel like I'm forgetting something I wanted to say about this that was really important. What was it? Anyway, our genuine desires come to the surface. It can show you where you're out of touch with your true path, especially being so close to, or in 30 degrees from the North Node. And, and I was going to say that courage, comes from the French word liqueur, not liquor, but coeur, which is French for heart. So it's, courage really means getting in touch with your true heart and then acting on that. And that's what Leo represents. There's a core of being really genuine and really in touch with your inner, your heart, what you care about, and who you are on a very genuine level. So in relationships, this could bring you to like really, I was gonna say expose yourself. No, to show yourself, to risk being vulnerable, which isn't easy, but even for Leos, that's not easy. To risk being vulnerable and say, you're going to feel that desire anyway. You're going to feel like you wish you had someone. If you're alone, you're going to wish you had someone who really got you, where you could just say, look, this is me. And if you have lost loved ones in the past, and who hasn't, with Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, you're probably going to be thinking about them a lot. Because, again, there's that desire for the heart connection. And, again, the little fly in the ointment here, it's kind of a big fly, actually. That's not a great analogy. That has nothing to do with a fly. Is all the planets in Aquarius, the personal planets. So again, there's that question of, okay, here's the collective out here. And maybe I don't like what they're doing, but I feel like I need to love them, but I kind of want validation from them, but they're doing their thing. And, there's the push-pull. But again, the antidote for what you're lacking is in Aquarius. Being a little bit more objective, Aquarius is good at being objective, but again, it could make you feel like you're out in the cold sometimes because you want something a little warmer, but Aquarius is very caring. So again, there's the balance between the self and the collective, and you might feel like the collective is overwhelming you right now, and you want to give, but you don't know how. So it's a teeter-totter, you know, between I want to help the collective, but I need to accept myself. And you might have a desire to do something that's just for you, that makes you feel good, and go ahead and do that. You have my full permission to do that, because you don't need to constantly be, you know, we don't constantly need to be, the collective can just be overwhelming sometimes. So, you know, whatever you can find that pleases you, and then share it if you want to. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. Okay, I think that's all I had to say. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but it's probably just because of the full moon. So there's a little bit of conflict here, and yet there's connection at the same time. And I might go down tonight and do the card reading. They looked very challenging, or I might do it tomorrow. But the full moon actually happens on the 1st. That's here on the east coast of the U.S. I'm not on the east coast, but that's just the time I always use. It happens at 5:09 p.m. East Coast time in the U.S., so adjust if you're, you know, I can't do directions. If you're east of the United States and you've already, it's later, which means you're on a different day. I get so confused. I can't do time. I can't do time or space, which means reality. Anyway, thank you for listening. Please leave me a comment. Let me know, well, just let me know what you think about this energy, and let me know what you think if you know any Leos. In my personal experience, I've had a lot of, you know, a best friend, a very close partner that both had Sun in Leo, and I've always found them to be, oh, I forgot the word loyal. That's the word I was missing. Extremely loyal. And I have always found them to be, they have this reputation for being kind of, you know, roar, the lion, and it's all about me. The Leos I've known, Sun in Leo anyway, extremely self-effacing, and I would say shy. So with a desire to be admired, but it was kind of hidden. So there's the shy kind of Leo. They're more like, I was going to say more like a house cat than a lion. I don't mean that they're not brave, because they are. I just mean they're not always in your face and dramatic. They're not always like that. So anyway, leave me a comment, please. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Thank you for listening. I will talk to you later. I hope you have a great full moon. Blessings, everyone. Good night.